My mother called on a Tuesday in March. I know the exact date because I had just made coffee, the good kind, the kind Daniel and I ordered from a small roaster in Vermont that came in brown paper bags with handwritten labels. I was standing in our kitchen in the house we had built together over 10 years, the house my parents had never once visited, when my phone lit up with her name. I looked at it for 4 rings. Then I answered. "Emily?" Her voice had the particular quality it gets when she needs something and has not yet decided how to ask for it. I recognized it immediately. I had grown up inside that voice. "Mom." A pause. "We need to talk about your father." "My name is Emily Carter. I am 30 years old. I have been married to Daniel Osai for 10 years and 3 months, and the last time my parents and I had a real conversation, not a holiday text, not a birthday call that lasted 4 minutes and covered nothing, was the night before our first wedding anniversary, when they sat across from me in a restaurant in Scottsdale and told me my marriage was a mistake they could no longer support. Before I go further, subscribe and leave a like. Drop your city and your time in the comments. I read every single one. This story is 10 years long, and it ends in a kitchen in March with a phone call I had always known was coming. Stay with me. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Daniel at 22, graduate school orientation at Arizona State. He was getting his MBA, I was starting my master's in urban planning. He was from Accra, Ghana, raised there until 14, then Atlanta, then everywhere his father's engineering career took the family. He was the most genuinely interesting person I had encountered in 22 years of encountering people. We dated for 2 years. He proposed at 24 in the most unromantic possible setting, a gas station parking lot in Tempe at 11 at night on the way home from a friend's birthday, because he said he had been carrying the ring for 3 weeks and he could not wait anymore. I said yes before he finished the sentence. My parents met Daniel 4 times before the wedding. Each time was cordial. Careful, the kind of careful that is its own message delivered without words. My mother, Patricia, asked on the 3rd visit whether Daniel planned to stay in the United States permanently. The question was dressed as practical concern. It was not. My father, Scott, asked Daniel at the 4th visit about his family's background. Daniel answered with the ease of someone who had been answering versions of that question his entire life. Graciously, completely, without the anger it deserved. I watched my parents receive his answers and recalibrate nothing. The wedding was small, 60 people, outdoor ceremony in Sedona, red rock formations in every direction, the kind of beauty that makes even complicated days feel held by something larger than themselves. My parents attended. They did not give a toast. They left before the dancing began. My mother texted the next morning, "Beautiful ceremony, safe travels." 3 words that did an extraordinary amount of work avoiding everything that mattered. The first year of marriage was what first years are, the specific education of learning to share a life with someone completely. Daniel traveled for work periodically. I was building a career at a planning firm in Phoenix. We had a small apartment with a kitchen that was too narrow and a balcony that was exactly right. I was happy in the uncomplicated way you are happy when you have made the right choice and you know it. My parents called less and less. I told myself they were adjusting, that time would ease whatever they could not say directly. The restaurant in Scottsdale corrected that belief permanently.
The dinner was my mother's suggestion. Our first anniversary was in 2 days. She called and said she wanted to take us to dinner, celebrate properly. I said yes because I was 25 and still believed that people who loved you were capable of surprising you with their better selves. Daniel and I drove to Scottsdale, dressed up, hopeful in the way you are hopeful when you have decided to be. We sat down. My parents ordered wine. My mother asked about the apartment. My father asked about Daniel's work. The food arrived. And somewhere between the appetizer and the main course, my mother set her fork down and said, "We need to talk about something difficult." I felt Daniel go still beside me. "We have tried to be supportive," she said. "We want you to be happy, but we are not sure this marriage is what is best for you long term." I set my own fork down. "We think," my father said, picking up where she left off with the practiced ease of people who had rehearsed this, "that you made this decision quickly, that you are young, that there are differences that are going to become more significant over time." "What differences?" I said. Neither of them answered directly. They did not need to. The answer was sitting next to me. Daniel reached under the table and covered my hand with his. His hand was completely steady. He said, "I think," he said with a quietness that somehow filled the entire table, "that Emily and I are going to let you finish saying what you came to say." My mother looked at him. Something moved across her face. She finished saying it. "They believed the marriage would not last. They believed I had not fully considered what I was choosing. They were prepared to support me if I decided to make a different choice. They would always love me." That last part was the cruelest part, because it was probably true, and it was completely irrelevant. I looked at my parents across that table, two people I had loved my entire life, who had flown to Sedona for my wedding and left before the dancing, and I felt something settle in me. Not anger, something colder and more permanent. Clarity. "I am not leaving my husband," I said, "and I think you should understand that this conversation is going to cost you something." My father started to speak. "I am not finished," I said. "You came to our anniversary dinner to tell me my marriage is a mistake. You have never visited our home. You left our wedding before the first dance. You have been polite to Daniel's face and something else entirely behind his back." I did not raise my voice. "I love you, and I am telling you clearly, if you cannot accept my husband, you will not have access to my life. That is not a threat. It is just what is true." The table was very quiet. Daniel's hand was still on mine. We drove home 2 hours later in a silence that was not uncomfortable, the silence of two people who have just gone through something together and do not need to narrate it. He said somewhere on the freeway, "You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did," I said. "Are you okay?" I thought about it honestly. "I will be," I said. "I already am, mostly." He reached across the console and took my hand. We drove the rest of the way home like that. The silence that followed with my parents lasted 10 years. The silence was not dramatic. That is the thing about choosing your peace over your performance. It does not arrive with a soundtrack. It just becomes the new shape of things, the calls that stopped coming. The holidays that we spent with Daniel's family in Atlanta, where his mother, Abena, called me daughter from the first visit and meant it completely. The life that grew in the space my parents had vacated. Daniel's career expanded significantly. He had started his MBA planning to work in corporate finance. What he actually built over 10 years was a private infrastructure investment firm that specialized in sustainable development projects across West Africa and the American Southwest. It was exactly as specific and unusual as it sounds. It was also extraordinarily successful. I finished my master's, joined a planning firm, made partner at 32. We bought a house in Scottsdale. The irony of the city was not lost on me. With a kitchen wide enough for 2 people and a yard Daniel planted with things that had no business growing in the desert and somehow grew anyway. We did not have children yet. We had talked about it. The conversation was ongoing, unhurried. My friend Maya, who had been my closest friend since graduate school and who had been at our wedding and stayed for all the dancing, came for dinner every few weeks. She knew the full history. She never pushed me to reconcile with my parents. She also never let me pretend the loss didn't exist. "How's the Patricia situation?" she would ask, which was her way of checking. Same, which was accurate. Occasional texts from my mother, birthday acknowledgments, a Christmas card with a photograph of my parents that stopped including me in the frame after year 3. I kept the first 2 on a shelf in my office. not out of sentimentality exactly, but because I believed in keeping records of things. My father had a heart attack in year 7. I found out from my cousin, not my mother. I sent flowers to the hospital, a card. I called once and left a voicemail that said I was sorry to hear it and hoped he recovered well. My mother did not call back. My father recovered. Life continued. Daniel's firm was profiled in a financial publication in year 9. 2 pages, a photograph, the name of the firm, and Daniel's name in the headline. My mother called 2 days after it was published. I let it go to voicemail. She did not leave one. My ally in this story is Maya. She called me the evening after my mother's missed call, as if she had known, which she probably had, because Maya has always had an instinct for timing that I have never fully explained. "The article?" she said when I answered. "Yes." "She saw it?" "Apparently." A pause. "How do you feel?" I thought about it honestly. Standing in the kitchen with the good coffee and the brown paper bag with the handwritten label and the house we had built over 10 years. "Unsurprised," I said. Maya laughed, the specific laugh of someone who has been watching a story develop for long enough to find its predictability darkly funny. "What are you going to do?" "Wait," I said. "She'll call again." She did, 3 more times over the following 6 months. I answered the 4th call, the one in March, the one about my father. That subscribe button is right there, because what my mother asked for when she finally got me on the phone, what she needed from the husband she had spent a restaurant dinner trying to talk me out of, I was not ready for the specific shape of it. Stay with me. My father's business had collapsed. Not the heart attack, he had recovered from that. This was different. A partner of 15 years had been quietly mismanaging funds. By the time the auditors found it, the damage was significant. The firm was dissolving. My father, at 64, was facing losses that reached into their retirement savings. My mother explained all of this on the phone in March, standing in my kitchen with my coffee getting cold on the counter. She explained it carefully, completely, with the thoroughness of someone who had rehearsed the explanation and removed everything that felt like asking. When she finished, the line was quiet. "What do you need, Mom?" A pause. "Your father, we were wondering if Daniel might know someone in his network, someone who might be able to advise us about the recovery options." There it was. 10 years of silence. 10 years of Christmas cards that stopped including my face, 10 years of a voicemail she never left, and a call she finally made because a profile in a financial publication had made visible the resources attached to the husband she had tried to talk me out of. She was not asking for money, she was asking for access to Daniel's network, to the connections built over 10 years by the man she had sat across a restaurant table from and called a mistake. I held the phone for a moment. Then I said, "I am going to talk to Daniel, and then I will call you back." I found Daniel in his home office. He was on a call. He saw my face through the glass door and ended the call within 30 seconds. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and was quiet for a moment. "What do you want to do?" he asked. Not "what should we do?" Not "I told you," not any of the things that would have been understandable. What do you want to do? "I want to help them," I said. "Not because they deserve it, because I am not willing to become someone who withholds help from people who need it just to make a point." He nodded. "And," I said, "I want them to understand, clearly, without any ambiguity, what they are receiving and from whom." He understood exactly what I meant. We called my parents together that evening. Daniel spoke to my father directly. He connected them with a financial advisor in his network, a woman named Diane, who was one of the best in the country at exactly this kind of recovery situation. He made the introduction personally. He was gracious and precise and completely professional. My father said thank you 3 times. Then he said, "Daniel, I owe you an apology that is long overdue." Daniel said, "I know, and I appreciate you saying it." Simple, clean, no performance. My mother and I had a longer conversation, not that evening, a few weeks later. A phone call that lasted an hour and covered things we had not said in 10 years. It was not enough. It was not close to enough. But it was honest, for the first time. She said she had been wrong, not just about Daniel, about the specific blindness that had driven the wrongness. I did not say it was okay. I said I heard her. There is a difference. We are building something now, slowly, on different terms than before. My terms, mostly. The house in Scottsdale still has the kitchen that is wide enough for two. Daniel's impossible desert garden is somehow thriving. The Christmas card I send my parents this year will have both our faces in it. That was my condition. It was not negotiable. They agreed without hesitation. Here is what 10 years of choosing right taught me. The people who require you to prove your choice was worthy of them will always move the goalpost. The proof is never sufficient. The acceptance is always conditional. Build the life anyway. Build it so well and so fully that the proof becomes undeniable. And when the people who doubted you finally see it, let them see it completely. Not to punish them, because the truth deserves to be seen. My name is Emily Carter, and 10 years ago, I drove home from a restaurant in Scottsdale holding my husband's hand. I have not let go since.